Dear learners, welcome to this video lecture session. Today's topic is concept of entropy. This topic is from the course Thermodynamics and its application. I am Subhashish Maji, professor in School of Engineering and Technology of Indira Gandhi National Open University. Today's topic is concept of entropy. In our earlier discussion, we discussed in detail about the first law of thermodynamics. There we have seen that first law of thermodynamics is nothing but conservation of energy principle. And here we will discuss about the second law of thermodynamics. So let us begin our discussion. After listening to this video lecture, you will be able to understand the concept of entropy, explain second law of thermodynamics, know Kelvin-Planck statement. You will be able to describe Clausius statement. You will be able to appreciate the equivalence of Kelvin-Planck and Clausius statement, and you will also be able to differentiate between reversible and irreversible process. Entropy and second law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics is the consequences of the failure of the first law of thermodynamics to explain certain phenomena occurring in nature. And we will discuss that certain processes, they are satisfied with the energy equations of the first law of thermodynamics, but even though the conservation of mass as well as the conservation of energy are satisfied, but even those processes are impossible. So let us see what are those examples. Let us discuss the two examples to demonstrate the inability of the first law of thermodynamics and the conservation of mass statement to completely describe system. Here is our first example. See, in this case, we have taken a case where complete chamber, it is half filled with steam and a partition is there, other half of the chamber is completely vacuum. So this is the state 1, and the entire system is considered an isolated system. The figure represents an isolated chamber with steam on one side of a partition and a vacuum on the other side. This is the initial state of the system. In the system, you will observe that this is well organized system, less disorderedness and less uncertainty. So this is the state 1. Now the partition has been removed. What will happen? The entire steam will fill the entire volume of the chamber. But one thing you must remember, that the chamber is an isolated system having partition. At state 1, half portion of the chamber is filled with steam and the remaining half portion was vacuum. So that was the state 1. Now state 2, just remove the partition and the steam will fill entire volume of the chamber. That is the final state. We call it as state 2. Now in this case, what's happening, that at state 1, when the steam was there in the half portion of the chamber having a partition and the rest half of the portion was completely vacant, this was organized. this was less disorderliness, this was less uncertainty. And after that, when you're removing the chamber, the steam will fill entire volume of the chamber and call it is coming from organized state to a disorganized state. And let us see what will be the expression for the conservation of mass as well as the conservation of energy. From conservation of mass, the initial mass will be equal to final mass, because this we are considering as an isolated system, and as we all know, there will be no mass transfer, there will be no heat transfer, or there will be no work transfer in between system and the surroundings. So M1 is equal to M2, that means initial mass is equal to the final mass. From the conservation of energy principle, we can write that is change in internal energy, that is U2 minus U1 is equal to heat supplied plus work done. But for an isolated system, there is no heat transfer, there is no work transfer. So U2 minus U1 will be equal to 0. That means U1 is equal to U2. The conservation of mass as well as the conservation of energy is satisfied and indicated that it is a constant mass and constant internal energy process. Now we will consider another process which is described in figure 2. The steam completely fills the chamber in its initial state. The system transforms itself into two subsystems with steam residing in one half of the chamber and a perfect vacuum on the other half. A partition is inserted and this final state is state 2. Now in this case, what's happening, that initially we are considering a chamber that is an isolated system filled with complete steam. Now we are expecting that if we give sufficient time, the steam will be confined into the half portion of the chamber, partition is put, and the other half portion will be vacuum. So in this case, what we are doing, we are expecting some process for which the conservation of mass as well as the conservation of energy will satisfy, but this process is not possible. We will say why it is not possible, we will discuss. First of all, let us see what will be the expressions for the conservation of mass and conservation of energy principle. Initial mass will be equal to the final mass. The change in internal energy will be heat supplied plus work done, and here the heat, since we are considering as we are considering an isolated system. So for an isolated system, there will be no heat transfer or no work transfer in between system and the surroundings. So those terms will be 0, and finally we will get U1 and U2. So for this case also, conservation of mass as well as the conservation of energy satisfies, but from our experience, the process is in figure 2 is impossible. Why it is not possible? Because in this case, state 1 is more disorganized and state 2 is more organized. Any system will never go by itself from a disorganized to a more organized state. Now let us take up the second example. The figure 3 shows an isolated system containing two blocks of material indicated as A and B. The block A is at a higher temperature TH and the block B is at a lower temperature TL. They are initially brought together and isolated from surroundings as indicated by state 1. So the system composed of block A and B combined together is an isolated system. But if block A's temperature is higher than the block B's temperature, and if you allow to heat transfer in between the two blocks, because of the temperature difference, there will be heat transfer in between the two blocks. Now heat will transfer from block A to block B until both the blocks are at thermal equilibrium. The final state is denoted as state 2. So at state 2, both the blocks will be having a thermal equilibrium. That means temperature of both the blocks will be shifted. So in this case, what's happening? The system is moving from an organized state to a disorganized state. Now if you write down the conservation of mass, that means initial mass will be equal to final mass, because it is an isolated system. There will be no mass transfer, there will be no heat transfer, there will be no work transfer in between system and the surroundings for an isolated system. So from conservation of energy principle, we can write the final internal energy for both the blocks minus the total initial energy for both the blocks will be equal to, that is the change in internal energy will be equal to the net heat transfer minus the work transfer. This is from the first law of equations energy principle. That will be equal to 0. So by rearranging these expressions, we can write the initial internal energy will be equal to the final internal energy for the system for two states. So the conservation of mass as well as the conservation of energy satisfy and indicated that it is a constant mass and constant internal energy process. Now let us take up a case where initially both the blocks are having the temperature, and we expect that after some time the block A will be attained at a higher temperature by itself and the block B will settle down at a lower temperature. Now in figure B, the two blocks are initially brought at the same temperature, and the final state results when block A is at the higher temperature TH and the block B is at a lower temperature TL. If you write down the conservation of mass and conservation of energy principle, and you will see that there is no violation of first law of thermodynamics, but still this process is impossible. The reason behind this, that state 1 is more disorganized state, and any system which is having disorganized state by itself, it cannot be transformed into more organized state. That is the essence of the second law of thermodynamics. Now we will see what are the energy equations or mass balance equation for this case. So in this case also the initial mass will be equal to the final mass, and for conservation of energy principle you will also find that the total internal energy at state 1 will also be equal to the total internal energy at the final state. So both the energy principle as well as conservation of energy principle as well as the conservation of mass principle obeying for this case, but from our experience the process in figure 2 is impossible. Why it is not impossible? Because in this case also state 1 is more disorganized and state 2 is more organized. Any system will never go by itself from a disorganized state to a more organized state. Now there are two very important statements given by Kelvin and Clausius. We will discuss those statements. Those are related to the second law of thermodynamics. First one is Kelvin-Planck statement. It is impossible for a device operating in a thermodynamic cycle to produce work while having heat interactions with a system at fixed temperature. Now this is an impossible process. That suppose if we consider an engine which draws heat from a heat source and continuously working and converting full as work, this is impossible as per the Kelvin-Planck statement. Now we will discuss about the Clausius statement related to the second law of thermodynamics. It is impossible for any device operating in a thermodynamic cycle to accomplish as its sole effect, the transfer of heat from a low temperature region to a high temperature region. So here you see that we have taken two heat sources. One is at a high temperature reservoir whose temperature is T2, and we have considered a low temperature reservoir whose temperature is T1. So T2 is greater than T1. So there is a device, we call it heat pump. It is reverse engine, and what it is doing, that it is continuously transfer the heat from a low temperature region to a high temperature region. But the Clausius statement says that it is impossible for any device operating in a thermodynamic cycle to accomplish as its sole effect the transfer of heat from a low temperature region to a high temperature region. Now let us discuss the equivalence of Kelvin-Planck and Clausius statement. So this statement says that if there is a violation of one statement, then automatically there will be a violation of the second statement. So in this case, we have considered two process subsystems. One is continuously drawing heat from a low temperature reservoir and supplying to a high temperature reservoir, and other one we have taken an engine which is continuously drawing heat from a heat source, does work and giving out heat to a low temperature reservoir. But in this case you see that the Kelvin-Planck statement, there is no violation, but for the heat pump there is a violation of Clausius statement. Now let us see that how the combined system is telling that once there is a violation of Clausius statement, automatically there has to be violations for the Kelvin-Planck statement. In this case you see, if you take the heat pump, Q1 is equal to Q2, and if you consider the engine, if you write down the conservation of energy principle for engine, we can write W is equal to Q1 minus Q2. Now here, that if you think of a control volume which is encompassing both the systems, heat pump as well as the engine, so you see that through this control volume there is heat transfer and there is work transfer. So the net heat transferred into the control volume is equal to Q1 minus Q2 dash, and the work is W is equal to Q1 minus Q2 dash. So in this case efficiency will be W by Q. So W is equal to Q1 minus Q2 dash, and the heat Q, that is an input for this system, is also equal to Q1 minus Q2 dash. So W by Q is equal to 1, that is 100%. So as per Kelvin-Planck statement, it is impossible for any engine for having efficiency of 100%. So in this case we have seen that if there is a violations of Clausius statement, there has to be violations of Kelvin-Planck statement also. So here we are considering another case where there is a violation of Kelvin-Planck statement, and now we will see how it leads to the violations of Clausius statement. So here again we have taken one heat engine. For that, Q1 is the heat input to that engine and it is completely converting into work, so W is equal to Q1. And also we have considered a heat pump, so it is providing heat to the high temperature reservoir by doing work W, and Q2 is the heat taken out from a low temperature reservoir. So there is no violations for the Clausius statement. Now you see what is happening over here. For the engine we can write W is equal to Q1, and for the heat pump we can write that Q3 is equal to W plus Q2, and but Q3 is equal to Q1, So we can write, but W is equal to Q1, so Q3 is equal to Q1 plus Q2. So here you see, if you take a control volume that is encompassing both the systems, so in that case you see Q2 it is the heat input to the control volume, and the net heat output is equal to, from the control volume, will be equal to Q3 minus Q1. But if you do some algebra, you will find that the net heat given out by the control volume to the high temperature reservoirs will also coming as Q2. But in this case you see, for the control volume, it is taken the heat Q2 and giving out to the high temperature reservoir the same heat without doing any external work. It is impossible. So it is a violation of Clausius statement. So when there is a violation of Kelvin-Planck statement, it will lead to the violation of the Clausius statement also. Now we will discuss about reversible and irreversible process. A process is said to be reversible if, after the process is completed, means can be found to restore the system and all parts of the surrounding to the states they were in at the start of the process. So here you see that we have considered 5 subsystems: A, B, C, D and E. So these subsystems are making a system which can be considered as an isolated system. So the isolated system is composed of 5 subsystems: A, B, C, D and E. The subsystems might communicate thermally or mechanically. They might even transfer mass across their boundaries if the subsistence A has energy transfer in the form of heat transfer and work with the other subsistence, then subsistence A is a control mass and the rest of the subsystems are surroundings to control mass A. So in this case what is happening, that we have considered an isolated system that is composed of several subsystems A, B, C, D and E. Out of these subsystems we have considered one subsystems as a control mass and the rest of the subsystems are considered as the surroundings. So B, C, D and E, those subsystems will be acting as surroundings. So there may be heat transfer in between system and surroundings. There may be heat transfer between system and surroundings. There may be work transfer in between system and surroundings. Now we will see what is reversible and irreversible process. The second law put a direction on all isolated system processes, and we know very well that S final for an isolated system is greater than equal to S initial. S is the entropy. Thus there is a forward and backward directions to all processes. When S final is greater than S initial, that is entropy at final state is greater than entropy at initial state, then there is a forward directions only as stated by the second law. Such process is called as irreversible. When S final is equal to S initial, that means entropy at final stage is equal to the entropy at initial stage, then the forward and backward directions are equally possible. Such process is called reversible. It should be noted that for a reversible process, entropy generation is 0 because S final is equal to S initial, and entropy generation is defined as the difference between final entropy for the system minus the initial entropy of that system. Temperature. It is a property which tells how hot or cold a body is. It also indicates in which direction the heat will flow. But no formal definition has been given. Knowing entropy now, it is possible to do so. We get this from system energy. The definition of temperature and pressure are developed from the differential form of energy. In this case, we have taken internal energy as a function of entropy and volume. So, we know very well that any two state properties, independent state properties, is sufficient to describe the state of a system. So, U is a function of S and V. So, we can write down the total differentiation du is equal to del U del S constant volume dV plus del U del V at constant entropy dV. Now, temperature is defined as T equal to del U del S at constant volume, and pressure is defined as P equal to minus del U by del V at constant entropy. So, we get the expression du is equal to TdS minus PdV. This is a famous equation known as the Gibbs equations. Now, we will deal these Gibbs equations frequently while calculating the change in entropy. Entropy relations, let us start with U as a functions of S and V. So, we have got du is equal to TdS minus PdV from Gibbs equations. Now, dH is equal to du plus pH because enthalpy H is equal to U plus PV. Put the value of H equal to U plus PV and find out dH. dH we will get du plus PdV plus VdP. So, substituting for du, we get dH is equal to TdS plus VdP. So, these expressions are also expressed on intensive basis, that is d small u is equal to T d small s minus P dV and dH is equal to TdS plus VdP, and these are the equations for intensive basis. Entropy relations. So, we know very well that ds is equal to du by T plus P by T dV, and ds we can write is equal to dH by T minus V by T dP. So, ds is equal to du plus T plus P dV by dV. So, here we are considering the small values of S, U, V, and this expression for the expression for change in entropy in intensive basis. Similarly, we get intensive basis for ds is equal to dH by T minus B by T dP. Ideal gas relations, we know very well that PV is equal to RT, where V small is defined as the specific volume. So, we start with du is equal to du by T plus R by small v dV, but du is equal to CV dt and dH equal to Cp dt, and combining these relations in Gibbs equations we get ds is equal to Cv dt by T plus R dV by V, and ds is equal to Cp dt by T minus R dP by T. So, we have got very good and nice equations for change in entropy in terms of Cv and Cp. For ideal gas relations, if we integrate the above two equations which we have just explained, that will give you the change in entropy S2 minus S1 is equal to integral of Cv dt by T plus R ln V2 by V1, and if you carry out the same integration for the other equations, we will get S2 minus S1 equal to integral of Cp dt by T minus R ln P2 by P1, where P2 is the final pressure and P1 is the initial pressure. Now, incompressible fluid or solid relations, the equation of state for an incompressible fluid or solid is V is equal to constant, because for incompressible fluid there will be no change in volume. Now, du will be equal to C dt, and we get ds is equal to C dt by t plus P by T into dV. And in compressible fluid for the solid reactions also, when you take V is constant and ds is equal to C dt by T, and finite changes in entropy are S2 minus S1. If you integrate, you will get integral of C dt by T. If specific heat is constant, then S2 by S1 is equal to C ln T2 by T1. Now entropy. The entropy S of a system is a property whose change between two states 1 and 2 is given by del S, that is S2 minus S1 integral of Q del Q by T. And here ds we are taking as del Q R by T. Now for a reversible process, ds is equal to del Q by T. For irreversible process, ds is greater than del Q by T. Now principles of increase in energy. If you take an isolated system, the change in energy for the system plus the change in energy for the surrounding for irreversible process will be greater than 0. For a reversible process, for an isolated system, change in energy for the system plus change in energy for the surrounding will be equal to 0. But for impossible process, that is change in entropy for a system plus change in entropy for surrounding cannot be less than equal to 0. Now we have discussed that entropy represents the disorderedness, randomness, uncertainty of a system. So in an isolated system, change in entropy is greater than or equal to 0. S final will be greater than S initial, that is a reversible process, and S final is equal to S initial for a reversible process. Entropy, the measure of disorderedness or randomness. The entropy S is an extensive property, must always increase or remain constant for an isolated system. ds isolated is greater than or equal to 0, or S final minus S initial for an isolated system is greater than or equal to 0. Now the reduction of irreversibility is the goal of many analysts. Isolated system, S final is greater than S initial, that is for irreversible process. For a reversible process, is S final is equal to S initial. Irreversible process generates entropy, whereas reversible process does not. Now my dear learners, we have discussed about the entropy generations, how we can feel about the property entropy, which is very important, and that comes out as an outcome of the second law of thermodynamics. And we have discussed about the two important statements given by Kelvin, Planck and Clausius. So let us quickly summarize our discussion. We have discussed the concept of entropy, we have discussed the second law of thermodynamics, we have discussed Kelvin Planck statement, we have also discussed Clausius statement, we have discussed the equivalence of Kelvin Planck and Clausius statements, and we have also discussed the reversible and irreversible process. Thank you very much.